Well, first of all, it's a delight to be back. But while I've been estivating in Somerset, the British Museum has been engulfed in scandal. Late last week, the director of the museum, Hartwig Fischer, brought forward his resignation with immediate effect amidst probably the greatest scandal in the museum's history. More than 2,000 artefacts have been stolen from the collection, which is supposedly the world's largest, with roughly 8 million pieces in total. And this is the problem, because the British Museum simply has too much stuff. And all the stuff it's got isn't actually properly catalogued. It doesn't know what it owns. Some of the catalogues they've been talking about in the last few days go back to 1926. Now, for me, of course, that's relatively modern, but it's almost 100 years ago. And that's the issue for the British Museum. Of these 8 million, 80,000, about 1%, are on permanent display. And so inevitably, if you haven't catalogued it correctly, if you don't know what you've got, it's only going to be a matter of time until people realise they could just walk out with some of the bits and pieces that were stored in the British Museum or had come under the ownership of the British Museum, because it's been a magpie museum that has collected and drawn in things of, quite frankly, varying quality for now well over 200 years, and it's slightly lost its sense of purpose. Museums need to be focused. They need to know what they're about, and the British Museum, when it started, was a focus of excellence, of something exciting and brilliant, and then gradually it got just to have anything that anybody felt like giving it, and it ended up with its 8 million pieces. The British Library, which used to be part of the British Museum and is now independent, separate, has a much clearer identity. It has, and gets given still, a copy of every book published in the United Kingdom, and this is a phenomenal resource. But of course, to run a library, it has to be properly catalogued, and you can become a reader at the British Library and go in and ask to borrow from this enormous range of books, and they know where they all are. And this is where the British Museum has got caught in a trap of modernity, because it spent much too much time thinking about the politics of giving away the Elgin marbles, with George Osborne sucking up to the Greeks or whatever he's doing and hoping to get a few bits and pieces in return, though I fear forgetting the wise words of Cassandra. I fear the Greeks even when they bear gifts, so I'd be a little bit careful of what's being offered, rather than focusing on the details of running a museum and understanding what it ought to have and how it ought to display it. Because if you've got 8 million items, surely you want people to see them. So why doesn't the British Museum do much, much more to share its best pieces across the country in some rural museums that may not have sufficiently exciting things to draw the crowds in? It could lend them, perhaps it could even sell some of them, because this is currently illegal and museums loathe deaccessioning. But wouldn't it be better for things to be seen and to be known and to be enjoyed, and for there to be pleasure derived from them, rather than them being stuck away in dusty warehouses where they're open to theft? There is no point in the British Museum having an Aladdin's cave of goodies, because, if memory serves me right, Aladdin's cave was where the booty of the 40 thieves was kept.